Hi, I'm Sasha.
Hi, I'm Pooya.
And this is Mess Magnets. We're back, baby. That's right. It's another week, another Mess Magnets, but things are a little bit different today. And if you're seeing us for the first time, hello, welcome. Yes, we are also on the Rob Has a Podcast YouTube today because listen, we have Pooya here. Huge treat. And we're going to be talking about a YouTube show. So, usually, just in case you don't know what Mess Magnets is, we talk about pop culture, whatever's trending right now, and we try to get it in a compact little package, in a 1 hour package for you, and then we end with a listener submitted anonymous. So we try to keep it light, fun, and we're still going to be doing that. But today we're going to be talking about Pooya and my favorite topic, YouTube. So we're on YouTube. We're talking about a YouTube show, Pooya, and I'm ready.
A YouTube show that made its way to Netflix. A
Yes,
glow
true.
up since we last talked
Yeah.
about it.
True, fair. Thank you, Pooya. Because yes, we are going to be talking about, as the title says, Inside, which is produced by the Sidemen. Pooya and I talked about season 1, which is free on YouTube on the Sidemen channel. So maybe you joined us there, maybe you didn't, but we covered that already. But Sidemen have glowed up, like Pooya said. And now we are talking about Inside, a reality TV show competition. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Sidemen? Because I feel like you put me on to the Sidemen.
Well, I don't know whether to say you're welcome or sorry. But
Yeah.
listen,
Same.
I enjoy them quite a bit. The Sidemen
Yeah.
are a YouTube group consisting of 7 members that hail from the UK. They've been doing this for over a decade now. Their group channel came to be around 2015, 2016, and they've been consistently putting out content every week since then. And aside from their main YouTube channel, they each have
Mhm.
their own individual channels. Some of the members do other stuff like KSI, as y'all may know. It not only runs Prime, the drink company, but also does music. Is now this season a guest judge on Britain's Got
Mhm.
Talent, and all this stuff. But all of that, and then they also have their own platform called Side Plus, where that's essentially their like behind a paywall content. They have podcasts there, shows there as well. And then they put together a game show last year called Inside,
Yeah.
and that was on their YouTube channels. And then Netflix came in, scooped it up, and now it was available globally for the first time on Netflix for season 2. And then at the end of this season, we did get an announcement that a US season is coming as well. So they're doing big things out here. They also have their own brands. They've got their own
Mhm.
fast food thing. They've got cereal. They dabble. They're very entrepreneurial.
Oh,
These
yes,
these
big
lads.
word.
Yeah.
I like
Hmm.
it. I
Yeah.
like it. Yes. And for folks that don't know, Inside, just like the name, is a Big Brother type show where we get 12 internet personalities to come on for 7 days. Oh, or sorry, 10, not 12. I'm lying.
10.
10.
I think. Yeah.
10 influencer personalities, and they get locked in the house to be challenged with like multiple tasks and challenges like most of these reality shows do, and they have to fight for a pot of 1 million pounds at the end of the week. But here's the tea: everything you need to do to like thrive, not survive, costs money in the shop. So that's where like it causes a little bit of drama on what to spend, what not to spend, who's spending the most money, et cetera, et cetera. So that's, I think, what sets this apart. And of course, the like celebrity factor, because you're excited to see like these internet people just like act out
Mhm.
and act up without their phones, without everything.
Yeah, I've been a big advocate for the last couple of years that a celebrity Big Brother season should include these YouTubers and
Mhm.
content creators because of how much they do stuff for the content. And I feel like this is the type of show that kind of amplifies that and puts a spotlight on the point I've been trying to make, where you don't need it to be a big Hollywood name for it to work
No.
out. And I love the premise. I also, for me, one of the reasons I gravitated towards Inside is that, like you said, it is Big Brother-esque in that they're all living under one roof. They're all different people. Some of them may
Mhm.
know each other, but most of them are not familiar with each other's work till after they meet. But also, I like that they start with the prize at $1 million, knowing full well at the end of the season it's not going to be $1 million because, like Sasha said, outside of a bed that's bare bones and 3 meals a day, which are rice and beans, they are very mid meals. Everything else they want for comfort, they have to pay for it through the shop menu. And even the showers are cold unless you want to pay the premium for hot. And
Mhm.
this causes a very fun show because some people don't give a damn. They're going to order off the menu whenever they like. They'll do it on the sneak. And then some people are kind of, a little more righteous. They're trying to do it the right way. Some people come in and they take it as a challenge of, well, we're all very internet dependent. It's nice to try and see if I can pull it off, if I can go without the necessities that I have in my life as comfort items for a week or however long. And then drama ensues, whether it's because people are hiding snacks or someone's spending money unnecessarily, or turns out, Sasha, going to bed too early could
Oh,
even be your
can't wait.
demise.
Can't
So
wait. The thing is, I would get voted out for that, but like I have FOMO, and well, not FOMO, but I'm charged by people, so I might not go to bed early.
because it's all under one roof, Sasha, you can't Irish goodbye the function and dip.
Yeah,
So I think you'd be up with everybody. But
yeah,
if
yeah.
this was okay, we're gonna go hang out at this club. Yeah, I'm not gonna see Sasha after
Club,
11:30. She's gonna
absolutely not.
she's gonna vanish. I'm gonna like, where did she go?
No, don't invite me to no club now that I'm 30 plus, which is crazy because if you knew me in early 20s, baby, I'd be the last one there, but no more. Don't call
You
me.
could do that. I think you could manage one
I could
night.
do one night and then
Yeah.
don't call me for 7 days. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so let's get into it. And of course, if you're watching us on YouTube or if you're listening to us, we are on YouTube with slides. So let's talk about
Mhm.
the cast because listen, I definitely don't know. Actually, I only knew one person. Well, I knew two people on
Okay.
this cast. So what were your first impressions about this cast?
So I knew, I think 4 or 5 people on this
Okay.
cast. So
Mhm.
immediately, based on what I had seen of them coming in, I was like, these are some great picks. I think the most surprising pick for me was Patrice Evra, who
Right.
is a legend at Manchester United, my favorite, my team. So
Mhm.
I knew exactly who this man was. I was like, okay, I did not, and like I was a little worried when Patrice got announced because
Yes.
I thought, or because we see this with Celebrity Big Brother all the time. People signing up to join and they're like, yeah, no, I don't do any of this shit. I'm out. But Patrice was really giving it. I feel like he was really in the thick of it, getting involved with these youngins.
Everybody knows. Yeah.
Exact. Oh my God, no. We can't use that phrase anymore. So he's one I knew. Obviously,
Mhm.
Whitney I knew because I have
Yeah.
watched her season of Love Island to its entirety. I knew who George was
Yes.
because he has collaborated with the Sidemen the last
Yeah,
couple
that's the
years
only
a
like,
lot.
that's one of the people I felt like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I knew well."
And then I gotta, look at my Twitch folks in Jason
Mhm.
and Cinna, who I'm very familiar with both of their work
Yes.
over on Twitch.
So this is
Cinna
big.
basically had a breakout year this past year and has become a lot more prominent in the scene.
Mhm.
Jason is only 20, but he also broke the 100K sub barrier
Yes.
on Twitch. So he's also been on the come up. So they were the ones I knew of very well. And then
Yes.
I knew of DDG because I had
Yes.
seen shorts of him
And Mess
revealing his
Magnets,
actual voice.
we've talked about DDG, so the messengers know
Mhm.
DDG now.
There we go. So that was
Yes.
was that your second person you knew?
Yeah, yeah, so I knew George, I knew DDG, and then I actually forgot that I knew Farah, who is a TikTok influencer as well, and I
Mhm.
knew her from, again, like, this UK YouTube scene, so, Nico, right, NDL,
Mhm.
posted a video with her, it was like a boys
Oh.
versus girls challenge,
Mhm.
and I really enjoyed her. Again, I understand what people are saying about Farah, like, they don't like her because she's loud, but as a loud girly, I just feel like Farah is so cute, so funny, so kind that I was fine with her.
Well, I feel like what was prominent throughout the show was that Farah changed that impression that people had of her.
Mhm.
Like, I think if they did a vote night one, Farah was going to go home.
Yes.
But I think by the midpoint, you see everyone basically going out of their way to protect Farah. They want her to win the money. Like, she definitely changed the impression people had of her. The other person, actually, I forgot that I did know who they were, was Dylan, because I've
Oh,
seen
really?
him on my TikTok For You page a bunch. I know
Mhm.
he comes in with like the news and breaks down, gives updates on like internet stuff. So I had seen him as well, but I wasn't as familiar with his work.
Yeah, he's a TikTok news reporter, which again, I, didn't know him, but makes total sense,
Mhm.
that folks know him, but maybe not well enough. And of course, in addition, we had PK Humble, who's a content creator, and we had social media influencers, Mia, right here at the bottom, Mia Mills, and Mandy Vakili. uh, Not me. Again,
Yeah.
it's just not clicking, the connection.
She is a podcaster, but then
Mhm.
is more so known for being the sister of a Love Islander.
And yes, and here's the thing that in the UK, like Love Island is their number one show. Everyone's into it. I feel like Love Island stars like are stars now, and they get launched, and everyone in their proximity, I feel like, gets launched.
Yeah, I think Love Island has fallen off a little bit over there in
Mhm.
the last
Got it.
couple of years, but for a while it was the number one
Yeah.
show. I feel like right now, and I don't live in the UK at the moment,
Mhm.
but based on my following
Mhm.
of stuff there, trends there, I think Traders has started to take over
Oh,
that
fair.
reality TV gap
Mhm.
over there.
Yeah,
There
and
too.
then I'm not mad at that. I love The Traitors
Hmm.
and I love Love Island, so all of
Yeah.
it. And of course, Millie Joe as well here, on the right side, and she's again another like influencer, really cool. But again, I think it's a really interesting cast. I also like the cast reveal where everyone minus Patrice and Uncle P and DDG were
Hmm.
announced, and they did like a welcome, like a basic, oh, they're now part of the show, blah, blah, blah. And then we even started a challenge. And then after the challenge, we were introduced to DDG and Patrice, who I think have the biggest followings, obviously, out of everyone here, or
I
the
would
most
say so.
known.
I mean,
Yeah.
one is a very successful rapper. The other
Yes.
one is a big footballer. So they are like your two bigger celebrity names. And I think getting that reaction from, well,
Hmm.
it is a show based in the UK. So obviously Patrice got way more of a, oh my God, it's
Correct.
him versus DDG, where the Americans were like, all right, we're sticking together
Yep.
because there's a lot of British people in here. We need to look
Yes.
out for our
So
own.
yeah, thank you. So the Americans were DDG, Cinna, and Jason. So they yeah, and DDG, I felt like, and we'll talk more about this, but I felt like was one of the only people trying to like do some kind of a strategy, some kind
Hmm.
of like, oh, we gotta actually like play the game, not just like vibes out. So, and that would be my biggest I don't know if complaint is the right word, but like a more critical way to watch the show would be like there isn't a lot of strategy, or at least not shown in how they're editing the show.
Yeah, I feel like this show is not really catered for strategy. It's
Mhm.
definitely more so for content, which makes sense
Yes.
given that it's a YouTube-based show. I also think the other part of it is for a lot of them, they're not here for the money, they're here for that screen time. So
Yep.
they're gonna mostly do that. I think you do see throughout the show's run, there are some people that kind of try and stay as neutral as possible because I think they recognize that when I leave here, I can farm this for content if I
Correct.
leave here with good rep. If I leave here with bad rep, that could be just a pain to deal with because, again, all of these people's lives are online. All of their work is online. So I think that's a part of it. Now, to go back to the strategy side of things, I think a couple of things do allow for that to happen.
Mhm.
But I think because of the fact that the format is in a way where you're not guaranteed a vote every time to who to eliminate, there's a lot less you can do on the strategy end because you never know who's going to be the one to vote somebody out. The amount of times we had one person decide who leaves.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah. So it's like you can't really do much. So just try and, ingratiate yourself to the house as much as you can. Um is really the direction to take. But
Mhm.
DDG, I think, would be probably the biggest quote unquote player of the bunch this season.
Yeah,
Um,
and DDG and George were rivals, right? Because Another interesting piece, again, going off of DDG and someone that maybe was there less for more for their channel growth, and I don't mean this negatively, like, this is a fair
No.
thing, but more for their channel growth and, their perception, right? Like, where you were talking about more neutral is George, where I really enjoyed him on the show, and it was exciting to see him, but DDG, I think, saw him as exactly what we just said, someone that's neutral, smart, under the radar, gets along
Mhm.
with everyone. So DDG was like, "No, he got to go." Like,
Yeah. Like
absolutely not.
I've seen a lot of people comment about how, wow, DDG had this one-sided rivalry with George. Maybe, but I think again, DDG was somebody who was thinking of Endgame and realizing that yeah, George
Yes.
is not upset anybody. He's
Mhm.
someone who I think could go all the way. He's someone who could beat me in a lot of these games. So I feel like recognizing that doesn't mean you hate a person. It just means that
Correct.
you're like you admire what they can do, and you're like, I don't want to be caught. I don't want to get snipped. So I think that's something worth pointing out. George was so much fun on the show. I think
Mhm.
George's humor is very underrated. He's very quick-witted and he was delivering some very fun confessionals. But there were moments also where I was like, man, George is going through it. He's just like he's just frustrated because people keep spending money on the dumbest things. But I also would say George bought the most outrageous stuff from the shop. But
Correct.
everything he bought was the random items that were hella cheap for no reason. It was like, all right, I'm gonna buy the lube because it's very cheap. I don't need it, but I'm gonna buy it to see what it is. So I feel
And
like
then
he
he,
did
like,
do his
uses
share.
that, yeah, and then he uses that on the table tennis to, like, to just slide
I thought they were gonna
water
get
bottles.
mad. I thought they were gonna get mad when he was there. What are you doing? But thankfully, that didn't come to be.
Content. Content, okay? And that's one thing, what these people are good at is creating content. But to me, the most underrated, content creator was Uncle P, right? Like, Patrice was so funny. He's so mad at everyone for spending money. He's pissed the hell off. He's like, "Y'all got me out here doing this, but wanted to play the game so bad." And his elimination was truly the saddest thing for me.
It was tough because basically for their elimination, they did, if I remember correctly, what the final game was
Yes.
in season one, which is
Mhm.
and Squid Games The Challenge did this in their
Yeah.
final game, their second to last game, where everyone puts blindfolds on, they're seated in a room. Randomly, one person gets chosen, and they have to get up and basically pick someone to be marked for elimination. Then that person unmasks, and they have to figure out who picked them. If they pick wrong, they're eliminated. If they pick right, that person's eliminated. And I feel like Patrice basically on default was like, everyone thought he's rich. We don't need him to stick around. So when it
Mhm.
came down to him and PK, they voted him out. But then when it was and they separated the guys with the girls on that challenge. And then with the
Yeah.
girls side, with Mia being the one quote unquote eliminated, I really thought, okay, the minute they introduced a buyback of okay, one of you's only leaving, I thought, okay, Mia's safe now because they didn't really want to eliminate Mia anyway. It just kind of happened. And of course that was
Yeah.
the case. And the overarching storyline was Patrice is a billionaire. He has money, which I did love Patrice being like, what billionaire? I do not have billions.
He's like,
I
"I don't
already
wanna go to Dubai because they're constantly being like, "No, you just wanted to go back to home to Dubai."
yeah,
And he's like, "What are you guys talking about? I wanna play." And I felt like they were low key trolling him on maybe some facts, and it was just going completely over his head, and just chef's kiss for that.
he seemed to me like he can take a joke. Like I think
Oh,
he
hell
he
yeah.
he he was like, I understand their perception. Like I get that they think I have money. I get that they think like my life's fine, and that's fine with me. I'm okay with that.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just so good. Again, it's just, but that was like to me the saddest elimination. But listen, spoiler alert, because that Mia coming back, give it, had the Jag storyline of Big Brother because she was eliminated. She comes back with the help of her fellow contestants because, of course, Mia and PK and Whitney have a strong three voting block and nothing can really change that. DDG, like I feel like goes in and out of that voting block, but it's really those three. And that's where I think Cinna, Jason, everyone else should have picked up on and started voting together against them, or at least Millie, Joe, George, and one more person.
Yeah. I think the most frustrating thing for me the whole season was the amount of, because like I said, there wasn't a lot of times where everyone could vote. But
Yes.
anytime there was an opportunity like that, there was at least one or two people that were like, I'm just going to burn my vote because I don't think anything's going to come of this. And I like, obviously, I didn't want my faves gone.
Yes.
So, but part of me felt like, okay, but if Cinna does leave here because Jason, you thought no one's going to vote for her,
Correct.
that should be a wake up call for you. So I didn't like that at all. That was like the only thing I took issue with was people burning votes. But other than that, I think the way the eliminations went were very fascinating because I think had they not gone that way, this could have been a more dull season. Because, for example, when PK is the person who can eliminate, PK and Patrice are the two that can eliminate.
Because they spent the most in PK, of course, and spent the least in Uncle P. Or
Yeah, which I thought that was a fun twist, by the way, to give both of them voting power.
I think that's exactly how you do a fun show because this is from season 1. Nobody come for me. But listen, trying to screenshot Netflix, y'all do it, not me. Anyway, so this is from season 1, but say the look is the exact same. It's just and Specs was there for season 2. So
he made an appearance.
And he was at the shop. All right. So anyway, in season 1, this is very similar where they had to go to the shop. On the side were the prices of everything. So PK would just like buy 17 things and only use 3. And then the food upgrades or whatever he bought would just sit right here, y'all, literally behind these doors. And then when someone else came down, the doors would open and then here's the food or whatever extra ass money he spent would just like go.
Yeah, well, the amount of times we saw PK order something, then just leave only for the screen to say unclaimed item in the shop was hilarious. And he also took a hot shower at one point. He also he was part of the bandits that hid chocolates in the gym.
Yep.
So he was spending a lot. So it was funny to me that they gave him the power to eliminate someone and Patrice, and together they were like, okay, well, we just lost the man. We should probably go for a woman here to balance things out. And I wouldn't have expected him to go Mandy because I thought he was like, because it really was a 4-person alliance in Mandy, Mia, Whitney, and PK. But I think in hindsight, that was a great call by him because Mandy leaving meant, first of all, less like, you're going to spend a lot of money. You kind of took out someone who's spending the next amount of money, right? So not bad for pausing the money spend, but also it made them become a smaller group. And I think Mandy was somebody that was getting on people's nerves as far as spending went. So you wouldn't want your group to be looked at and targeted. So I think eliminating her and making the group look smaller was good. I think that did ultimately help them out.
And I think there's unfortunately whatever bias was going on with the, each cast has their own bias. So they looked at PK like, oh, shucks, he's our only spender. And that's okay because he is the glue guy and he's fun and he like silly. He does a lot of like vibes things that we need because we have nothing else to do on the show. So I think that's where I really enjoyed they were able to enjoy it. And I was really able to be like, yeah, we need a chaos agent. And that's what PK was. Never tells a lie, but he does tell a joke.
Yeah. I mean, that was just, he lied so much on the show. And it was just interesting to me because I feel like PK definitely was drawing a lot of comparisons to Castillo from season 1. Or Castillo, as you would call it. Fantalite Brev. He was that person this season. Spending a lot, hiding the food. So he drew a lot of comparisons. And I feel like nowadays, what we see with the internet is the minute someone is doing something someone else has done, they're called what? Discount blank, Temu blank, Shein blank. So it was a lot of that. But what I did find fascinating about PK is that there were moments where he was definitely in strategic conversations. Like he wasn't doing it alone. There he was in strategic conversations. He's talking behind the back of the people that he's working with. He's talking, then he's telling them that he said that. And it was just mess. Like PK looked like mess, but then also no one voted him out. he was safe the entire way. He could have been up for elimination a bunch of times, but I don't think he caught a vote at all going into the final three.
Yeah, and no, I think that's what was really one of the reunion points was, well, PK just like not soared, because I think social game is important, but that's what it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And that he just had really good social game and no one wanted to vote for him. But they weren't worried about him. They thought the biggest threat is when someone says they're okay right now, I'll take them out later,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
that's when it's mess.
I also think the difference between this cast and last, and maybe I'm not remembering
Mhm.
last season that well, is that I feel like from like day one, this cast basically said, yeah, as long as we leave here with like 300 grand, 400 grand, that's not
Yes.
bad. So them setting that expectation of, if we can hold it to that, let's have fun, I think amplified both the season and also made people be more forgiving of the heavy spenders.
Mhm.
It wasn't as big of a deal. I also think this cast genuinely did not even try with the meals, where like last season, a lot of people did deal with the rice and beans. From episode one, everyone was getting meal upgrades or sharing meal upgrades.
Mhm.
And they didn't bother. They were like, you know what? Let's get the comfort, let's have fun. Because ultimately, as long as we leave a little bit of money, that's good. And I think that's not a bad way to look at it. I know that Cinna brings up in the reunion that for a lot of people they saw that as monopoly money because it's not real, so let's just spend it, who cares. But I also think that is what you should expect with all these content
Yeah.
creators, where they're like, I'm here for a week, I'm not trying to starve myself for no reason, I might not even be here to get the money, which I think is a very fair point, especially when you never know who's going to get eliminated next. I think spending is fine, it's just a matter of spending it and not having people resent you for it. And I think PK definitely showed that he was able to do that, because Sasha, the other thing PK lied about,
Mhm.
which was pretty big, was when they did their night watch challenge again, and they had the temptation room in there, and
Yes.
PK was offered, what was it, 10K for
Yeah.
himself, and if he takes that, 50K is removed from the prize pot, or 30K was removed from the prize pot.
Yeah, I think it was
And
30. Yeah.
he inflated those numbers. He didn't take it, and then he's like, they offered me 50K, I turned it down. And
Or it would have
that,
been 100 or 150K from
yeah.
the price pot, blah, blah, blah. You damn liar. It's so funny.
And they exposed that when they did the spill the
Spill
tea
the
challenge,
tea.
where they give them
Mhm.
the clips and stuff. No one no one was mad at him. And I think again, that's a testament to both his like social game or
Correct.
social like friendships he has made, but also the mentality of this cast being different than I think the other cast we had seen.
Yeah. Again, I think this is a DDG. Far be it for me to give, DDG his flowers, but DDG comes in and says, listen, right? Like this is what's the most practical. 300,000, even split 3 ways or 2 ways, whatever. Split period is still a lot of money for all of us. So we should be okay with that. I think changing that group thing plus, like we said, PK's thing. I think why PK got away with specifically lying about the night watch challenge is because he didn't take the money. So they just were like, oh, this is part of
Yes.
like your persona of just like playing with us, but still doing quote unquote the right thing.
And then they ended up giving him, like, there was another opportunity to get 10K, and he was given the 10K. They were like,
Yep.
yeah, PK, take it. Take it because you didn't take the other. I'm sorry, what? Okay, anyway. But again, people liked him in the house. So what are you
Yes.
going to do about that? Like they liked him, and I think a lot of people didn't want, they were worried that they would get penalized for it. As in someone might look around and vote them out because like, oh, I'm sorry, but you have 10K already. And I think PK is like one of the few people that can get away with getting that and no blowback from the rest of the group.
Yep. It's just again, and that's how social dynamics are really interesting. Where if two people in a group, right, they everyone has different social standings. So if X person does this and Y person also does it, like a PK and Mandy situation, one of the people is definitely going to get blowback while the others don't. It's just this is why these shows and all of us on RHAP, like all the listeners even, right, like enjoy watching this because it could be a copy paste of the same exact format, but because of how humans interact with each other, it's always going to be so different. And I think PK and Mandy are great examples of just that. So good. But let's also talk about the first elimination, because that is, to me, the funniest thing ever. DDG gets given unfortunately,
Randomly.
yeah, randomly, of course, he gets a card to pick to pick someone to eliminate, because at first people thought, oh, like a random chance DDG is about to get eliminated. And here's the thing, Pooya, it question, if it wasn't DDG that got that card, is it a random elimination?
Unless Dylan gets the card, I think we
Oh,
were always gonna have Dylan
okay.
go. Oh, you mean as in if DDG didn't get the X, would they have said, "All right, you're eliminated, goodbye"?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a conspiracy I'd listen to.
You know me.
I feel like that would be. I think the key for the show is the
Mhm.
Sidemen don't want the cast to be like the Sidemen are the enemy, because they're
Fair.
they're trolling them a little bit. KSI is on the
Yeah.
mic every morning, waking them up and stuff. But I think that you kind of want the beefs or the drama to be from inside the house.
Yeah,
So
I like that.
yeah, I think it was always going to be oh, you think you're eliminated because you're like nervous. Oh my God, I'm out. Like, psych, not only are you not out, now you eliminate somebody. And now it's a
Mhm.
whole other drama for a whole different reason. But look, Dylan was always cooked. I think Dylan was easily the main, I'm going to save the money. I'm here to prove that I can do this person. We had a couple last season. I think that's fine. I think he wouldn't have been eliminated for that. What
Yeah.
ends up being very clear is that everyone else for the first two nights hung out together. The FOMO kicked in, Sasha, as they say, where everyone hung out. They got to know each other.
Mhm.
They had a big bonding session, I think, the second night, but Dylan would go to bed super early and then wake up super early when everyone's asleep. So he was a little bit detached from the group, bless him. And like, listen, I'm happy you have a healthy sleep schedule because I cannot relate. But in a game like this, you don't want to be isolating yourself like that. I think what sucked about it, Sasha, is that the night before, he was given a mission to put
I
10K back in
know.
the prize fund, and he succeeded in that.
I couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? Like, it again, you couldn't script better work. Or maybe you can't, because
Mhm.
maybe they knew that, hey, we're doing an elimination tomorrow. Dylan's most likely gonna go home. This would be the ultimate troll. But poor Dylan gets a massage gun, which costs a lot of money from the shop, but it's fine, and ends up going under Uncle P's bed because content, right? That's the guy that's gonna be most pissed off that we spent money, and they all start coming for PK. So because of that, Dylan's safe. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was always going to go that way for me with Dylan, unfortunately. But I will say, if this was a night earlier, if this was first
Mhm.
day, I think Farah would have gone. I
Yeah,
think
I think
she
so.
definitely came in with a lot of energy, very loud. And I think a lot of people were immediately a little bit spooked by that and a little bit like,
Mhm.
what is going on? Why are you doing this? So I think now, with Dylan gone, that kind of left Farah completely safe. And like I mentioned earlier, I don't know what they shared in these bonding sessions, but there were actively people in the game that were like, I need Farah to be safe. I want her to win. I want her to win the whole money.
I
So,
think she probably just shared, like, her life and, just
mhm.
shared herself, which, this is also my question, but I was going to ask at the end, but it's okay. We can talk about it now because it came up in a few eliminations, definitely comes up at the end. But do you believe in, like, if you're rich, like, you shouldn't win?
If you're rich, you should. No, I don't. I feel like if you all sign up to be on the show, you're all here to win or make content or
Mhm.
whatever your motive is. But if your motive is, I want to win, then why not? I think maybe hide that you have more money.
Right.
Maybe don't wear your
Fair.
Van Cleefs,
Yeah,
and then
agree.
get in your feelings that someone brought that up. But I think that's the key because and this has come up in other shows we talk about and watch on this network with like Survivor. People arguing that you should never have to like people shouldn't vote based on what are you going to do with the money. I think that's fair, but I think when it's asked and you have an answer ready now, like people
Mhm.
can use that as their decision. It's on them. But I think when all is said and done, Sasha, And there's this TikTok that I really enjoy where it's to do with, I'm gonna take you on a tangent. It's to do
I
with
love
like
it. I love it.
it's to do with like requesting. It was like a skit, and it's like, I'm requesting more break from work, and the boss is like, did you not just have a vacation? And the guy's like, listen, when you eat chicken biryani, don't you want to sometimes eat more chicken biryani?
Yes.
And to me, it's like, if you have money, what's a little more extra money? Like, why would, because I have money, I should be content? No, let me stat pad a little bit. Let me now have
Mhm.
extra walking around money. Or now that thing I wanted to buy, I can buy with my winnings here, and then my money doesn't change. Like, I think that's fair. That's very fair. So,
Yeah, million percent agreed with you. I also don't think money should play a factor. The thing that maybe like an asterisk, I will say is also I think less or smaller known creators, right? If they stayed the whole time, they're likely to get more exposure in addition to whatever money they get. So I think that also could be a reason why Farah, who's 24, right? She's pretty young, maybe is able to move and get a little bit more exposure and get herself put herself out there as opposed to maybe other folks that were a
mhm.
little bit more established in their areas.
Yeah, because I think what maybe goes unsaid or people might not think about is that
Mhm.
content creators aren't all like successful content creators aren't all making good money.
Correct.
I think people don't recognize that TikTok revenue versus YouTube revenue versus Twitch revenue are very different. Twitch, you're 100% dependent on, like, having live viewers is good because the bigger the viewership, the more the ads will
Yeah.
pay you. But for the most part, it's to do with your subscriptions. As many, like, so like I said earlier, Jason at one point broke the 100K barrier at a 70-30 split at $5 a sub.
Mhm.
That's a decent chunk of change for 1 month's work versus TikTok. I've seen like KSI, I think, on a podcast, looked through his phone and looked at his revenue from TikTok. It wasn't a lot. It was like, was it
Yeah.
even four figures? I don't think so. And he's a big creator. I think YouTube probably makes you the most money if your content
Mhm.
creation is successful, because it goes by CPM. A million
Yes.
views nets you a lot of return, and so on. So I think that, you keeping that in perspective, not all these people are making the same amount of money, but also a lot of them will use all of them, right? Like but
Correct.
I think recognizing that if you're popular on Twitch, your viewers on YouTube are going to be smaller, but if you're popular on TikTok, your YouTube will be smaller, and so on. And then obviously,
Mhm.
like someone like Mia, who does like Instagram's like the one place that I'm not as familiar with, but I have to imagine there's a lot of money coming in with like partnerships or sponsorships that you get, and you got to make stories about the product and stuff like that. So it's different money everywhere, but a lot of them will diversify and do all of them. A
Yeah.
lot of the people in this season have started streaming on Twitch now after the season happened,
Mhm.
or putting as much content out there as they can. So it's a fun thing to think about and talk about, because I've obviously looked into a lot of these things, but also it's recognizing that I think ideally you want to do all of them, but it's also the same thing, Sasha, when like Vine was a thing,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
Viners were making good money, but then when Vine shut down, only a few of them were able to make it to YouTube. So it was almost like, oh, being a YouTuber first and then having Vine was better than being a Viner first and then having a YouTube. So it just depends
Because
where you
you're
get
short
popular.
form content, and I can't
Hmm.
imagine how hard it is to, like, then be like, "Okay, now I have to change it to at least a certain amount of minutes and runtime," and my fans are used to, like, 5-second clips to now I have to add all of that, like, the Dolan twins are, I think, a big one that were able to make that change successfully, but it's just I being a content creator is so hard, and shout out to everyone that's able to do it because
It,
couldn't be
it's
me.
it's a lot of work.
Yes.
It's a lot of recognizing what field you're in, how to
Mhm.
maximize your longevity there, but then also, because it's a creative job, you have to be passionate about it, and you
Yes.
have to be, if you don't like the content you're doing, your audience will translate. They will not be receptive to it as much. But yeah, it's a fun combo. As you can tell, I clearly like talking
Yes.
about this.
Listen, and that's why we're here, okay?
Yeah.
It's great. We love it. And yeah, so I think that's really interesting to say Dylan goes bye-bye. And I felt like DDG was the best person to do that first elimination because they kind of see the house was seeing him as like the quote unquote leader in that way. I felt like where they would like turn to him on like strategy and like what to do, when to do it kind of moments. Then the Mandy elimination, woof, wild, I must say. Then we already talked about it. Then the Farah George elimination. Oh my God. Because you already talked about how Cinna gets the third, actually, most votes, if we're being correct.
Let's talk about it.
Yes, because
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to talk about. So, of course, the point of this elimination was the whole house gets to vote, but and George had immunity the vote before. Oops, sucks. He doesn't get it now. And the whole house is voting, but the thing is very sequester like where the first person that gets the votes, of course, it's eliminated, but the second person that gets the most votes gets immunity. I loved it. So now you have to be a little bit more strategic. And this is where I thought they would talk to each other more to be like, who are we, piling the votes on? What are we feeling? And again, I felt like the Whitney Mia PK contingent were able to do that versus everyone else. And we know DDG like was gonna vote George. Like duh. He been talking about it since the night watch at least. So this is where we end up with a Farah George tie. I loved it. I loved it.
I did too. I was bricking it a little because up until this point, I was like, content, good. When it was
Mhm.
George versus, I knew they were going to pile him on George. And I just didn't
Yes.
want George to leave here. And Farah, while I was enjoying her stuff on the show, I just didn't want a guaranteed winner. And I
Yep.
feel like if she had survived here, I don't see them trying to vote her out from here on
Oh,
out. And
interesting. Okay.
I feel like we kind of see this a little bit at the end where PK is like, I can't do this to Cinna. I think Farah's in that same spot, and then it's like, well, I didn't. Again, I understand people being more like not deserving of the money, but you want them to have the money. But then if you're just like walking them to the end to give them the money, that's no fun for me. I want a little adversity, and George was that adversity. So when they said rock paper scissors, I was in disbelief. I was like, this is going to rock, like, this is going to suck. And then she leaves, she loses rock, paper, scissors. And
Mhm.
like you, I thought, okay, so second highest votes should technically be George because
That's what
George
I'm
had
saying.
4 votes. Yeah. And he didn't go. So he should be second. But then they gave it to Cinna, which I think was safe otherwise. Like she only got votes because people were
Exactly.
burning them. So it should have been George, but it didn't matter anyway. So we're fine. But I
Mhm.
just, especially because I think George and Cinna, Sasha, were because the person immune got to eliminate the next person. I think both would have eliminated Whitney in that spot. So I think it worked out in that it was the same result no matter what.
Yep. I million percent. I just thought that George could have got it. And that's fair is fair. But I like
Mm-hmm.
Cinna, so it's fine. I love when good things happen to my fave. And it was
Mm-hmm.
okay. I it was pretty clear to me from I think episode 3 that I felt like, oh, Cinna is definitely going to the end because she's so well insulated with the American alliance. And I think she's able to like build with everyone else. And she doesn't spend, which I think folks see her as like, eh, she doesn't spend and doesn't shame for spending. So I think she was getting a lot of like good, positive stuff from that as well to be like, okay, I'm not going to spend, but like, fine, y'all do it, I guess. And she would have other people buying for her. So she was still part of all the social like conversations in the house. She wouldn't like isolate. I'm sorry, Dylan. So that's why I felt like Cinna was like a good lock there.
Yeah, for sure. I think the other thing is that her DDG and Jason
Mhm.
silently being a locked alliance was
Yes.
also a good shout
Yes.
because I think the one thing that was guaranteed was that people knew Mia, Whitney, and PK were a
Mhm.
three. So naturally, taking one of them out, especially the one that you're not maybe vibing with the
Yep.
most, makes sense in that spot. Whereas like George was like, I'm not looking at Sin. Like George was like, I don't think was looking at any of the Americans.
Mhm.
The Americans are not looking at each other. Sin is not looking at George. Jason's not looking at George. So there was just a lot less options left on the table to have, you know, her go out.
Yeah. And good for her, all right? And then that's how we get to the end where we get the safe or not safe moment where you get to pick a huge pyramid like the set work on that one. So it's a nice pyramid where you randomly picked by the sidemen. Two people come up, one person has to say I've either eliminated or safe. They were all being very altruistic, being like, no, PK was like, I told you I won't lie. This is safe. We're not, or eliminated. And karma works for PK and he goes through. He's safe, which is nice. Then, of course, Jason gets eliminated by George
Mm-hmm.
because Jason also doesn't lie. And then, and Millie Jo gets eliminated as well. Sorry. But I like it
Earlier,
was
yeah.
inconsequential. I'm sorry, Millie Jo, you're great. Um, anyway, but yeah, sorry. So now we're in the finale. This is what happens, and I will say, if folks get eliminated, we're moving. Jason's gone, and PK is moved on to the next round. Then DDG comes up. And we
Dun
know
dun dun.
DDG v. George. And George has been pulled up every time that he's eligible to come up,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like. So George is up. And now DDG has to decide to lie to George or not lie to George. Because listen, that's his rival. One-way rivalry, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But statistically, George should have sat back down and let DDG take whatever it is. But
Yeah,
he
I
doesn't.
think he should have for sure sat back down and then risked it for that last one.
Mhm.
But he doesn't. I think also getting it 3 times in a row, you're just like, all right, let
Correct.
me just call bluff here because it can't be the same result 3 times in a row or whatever. So that was unlucky for George. My one gripe with
Please.
this was
Yes.
of all the people that were left in the game and playing, I was so irritated that Mia basically got nothing until the
I
very end
know.
because Mia, I feel like was the most inoffensive person on the show for me outside of the
Mhm.
Van Cleef like snippy stuff that happened. It like she was eliminated and can't comes back, so I can't fault her for feeling a type of way. But the fact that she just sat there while like George had to go 3 times, PK had to go the first 2 times, and
Mhm.
everyone's going through it, and then Mia pulls up to DDG, who we're crediting with all this strategy thinking,
Correct.
and DDG just lays the sword down and says, "Take it, you'll be safe. Take it." I feel like we just talked about how
Mhm.
you go for the win, whatever. No one deserve, not deserve. But as far as content to reward ratio goes, I think
Yeah.
Mia gave us the least of the 3 winners.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she got eliminated, which again, it's not her fault, but it's just very funny to me. That's
Yeah.
all. And yeah, I think DDG was like, well, now that I eliminated George, I got my win. I think that's all he cared about, which
Mhm.
bummer, weird ending. But I think this is where again, it's hard. There's only so much you can do with social dynamics on the line.
I think now this is the second season where we're ending the show on a splitter steel, right?
Yep.
And I feel like the problem with this show is that they're all there in that house. They got nothing but time. They're bonding.
Mhm.
Like unless you get a Mandy and PK at the final two, you're not gonna get that split result,
Yep.
and you're almost guaranteed to not have them both at the end because games like this where you could just eliminate each other,
Mhm.
they're not going to let each other get that far. They'd have to be very lucky to get there because when the end was PK, Cinna, and Mia, we could tell PK was kind of flirting with Mia on the low. We could tell
Yes.
that PK wanted Cinna to be safe because he literally was honest with her. Um, The only threat of split was PK, and I just didn't see him doing it to these two specific people.
Yeah,
So
agreed. I wonder if it was anyone else, if he would have done it, but there's no way.
it's
And I think Cinna was
yeah.
too loved by the house for
Mhm.
them to like steal from her. If anything, she should have stole, but she wouldn't. That's why she made it that far.
Yeah. Well, I think it's tough also because unlike a Big Brother or these other shows, you're there to win. Everyone knows you're there to win. You're there to win life-changing money for your family and stuff. But I think with these content creators, a lot of them are going to start collabing either during the
Mhm.
season or after the season. These are like collaboration opportunities, and to a content creator, collaboration is good stuff.
Correct.
So do you really want to like get all the way to the end and then snake them and then people feel some type of way about you? Now I think also a lot of these content creators would have been like, that was drama, that was a good time, I can't
Yeah.
believe you did it. But and also it was like 90K, like my life's fine.
Oh,
So
okay,
they could have done it.
Mandy. Yeah.
They could have done it. Oh, Mandy being like 90K is nothing. I was like, take many seats, Mandy, because that is outrageous to say.
A
Outrageous
billionaire
to say.
wouldn't even say that. They would be like, "They give me 90K. What the
Like,
heck?
to some people, that's 3 years' salary, 4 years' salary, even.
Like,
So
what are we doing here?"
again, pipe down.
And 90K pounds, so even more money for dollars.
That passes the six-figure mark for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So really, what are we doing here? Because yes, like when we get to the end, the prize fund is about 294,000 pounds. So lots of money. And yeah, they each walk away with 97, almost 98,000. So that's
Well,
almost so
PK leaves with 108 because he
yes.
had that 10K. I think that's the other
Mhm.
part, Sasha. Because he was given that extra bit of money, I think he looks like a absolute dick if he steals here.
Oh, fair. I
That's
didn't
the
even
other
think of that.
part.
See,
Like
I
they
would've said
gave him an extra 10K only for
mhm.
him to do this. I don't know how that would have gone down. I think for PK, the way he played and the money spending, that's somebody who doesn't expect to be at the end. So
Yeah.
just getting here and now making bonds, he's like, you know what? That was fun. Let me take my six
Mhm.
figures and dip. I'm fine. I don't need to get more at this
And
end
it's
point
a
here.
a great amount of money. Like, I don't think it's nothing to scoff at, and I felt like
Mhm.
that was a good balance of, like, content, spending money at the shop, while still, not leaving with, like, 10K each or something like that. So,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, and then you think it's over, but it's not because we get a reunion, a little weird, a little
Yes.
disjointed, but I feel like a lot of uh, eh, the way they've edited the show in general, we know because of how other folks have come out and chatted that there was a lot of stuff, a lot of fights that were left out, a lot of like conversations were left out. Bummer. Don't know why Netflix chose to do that, but here we are, and it is what it is. But so did the reunion because we only get like one real fight with Mandy and PK where they revisit their tension. And Mandy says PK doesn't deserve the money. And then they start talking about PK's tattoo, which is messy work. So then he goes, "Well, you have a botched BBL."
Yeah, they were taking jabs at each other because Mandy coming in as the second boot,
Mhm.
extremely bitter, I think, even still at this reunion, that she was taken out by her friend. She doesn't understand it. Also, I think it doesn't help that earlier before she goes, PK literally frames her by buying chocolate and putting it in her like
Yeah.
drawer. So it was like he was then pinning on her that she's the biggest spender, and then it comes out that he is the biggest spender, and then he uses that voting power to boot Mandy. So I understand that there was some tension there, and like rightfully so potentially, but these jabs from both ends were unnecessary. And I feel like she came in a lot hot, and then
Yep.
PK literally balanced it out by going maybe even beyond, and that was a little bit tough to watch, especially because this didn't feel like it was like a 36-minute reunion, and it
Mhm.
didn't feel, and I almost wish, I don't know what the timeline was on recording this, but I almost wish they would show them more clips, and like have them react to those moments.
Correct.
I feel like that's what we missed out here with the reunion. But I also want to say kudos to Netflix, because I think this is the first time they've done this, Sasha. We got
Mhm.
a daily episode release, not all
Yes.
in a bunch. And I
Yes.
thought that was so much fun. I had an episode every night ready for me to watch. I love that. So I hope that made them feel like they can do that more.
Mhm.
I think in the UK, Inside was like in the top 2 the whole week. On the US, I only saw it in top 10 once. It was 9th and not
Mhm.
again. So I don't know how much it did in numbers for the US side of things, but it was successful on the UK side of things for sure.
Yeah, it's so good. I enjoyed it because I felt like I had something to look forward to every day, and it because I'm in the West Coast, it never felt like that long for me anyway, because I woke up and there was already a new episode
Mhm.
there for me.
Yeah.
So I think for Americans in general, the timing worked out, and even for us West Coasters, even better, where we were like, oh, I can watch it even if I watch it later in the day. I'm good. I can watch it tomorrow morning, another episode, and we had enough time to like get into the piece, into like chatting with what people think, because what I felt like was missing, right, is that you don't have YouTube comments to read. Not
Yes,
that
to
they would
scroll through.
be very positive, so maybe
It
people.
was just like, wow, let me piss myself off by reading the comments.
That was me last year. I was in shambles from Enrica. I was like,
Mhm.
y'all piss me off, leave my girl alone. But it's okay, whatever. Manrika's, like, still getting weird threats. I don't know what's going on here, but it is what it is. Here we are. So I just, yeah, I felt like all of that was really exciting, and then we had certain people that I will say I also didn't vibe with, but no one to where I would, like, send death threats to, like, everyone needs to calm down. Like, for real, for real. I didn't appreciate Whitney, like, talking about Uncle P, like, when he was talking and, like, making fun of his English, just as an
Mhm.
immigrant, as someone, whose parents had an accent. I mean, I had an accent too, but I just, like, grew up in Oklahoma and, like, felt like, "Oh, I need to, like, lose it or to fit in," and when I'm mad, it comes back out. But everyone, like, having an accent just equals you might speak a different language. So what are we doing here? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely. I just didn't understand those comments. And also the whole like mean girl thing obviously was
Mhm.
very much being mentioned earlier in the season. And I didn't see it that way in the beginning. But in this reunion with, every second Cinna was talking, Mia keeps looking back at Whitney and they're giggling amongst themselves. It felt so rude to me.
Yep.
And I don't know if the liquor was flowing and everyone was a little bit tipsy here, but I just felt like it was just unnecessarily tenuous and
Mhm.
tension filled, which just made the whole. I was like, I kind of don't care about this reunion anymore. I'm usually
Yeah,
pro
that's how I
drama. This
felt.
didn't feel like good
Mhm.
drama to me.
Yeah, and again, the Mandy PK stuff, at least they were both, like, on equal footing and going at each
Hmm.
other, so it's, like, fine, even though it got personal, at least it's both. But this one, it felt like I don't even think it's punching down because, like, Patrice, like, I don't think is, like, necessarily under or, like, less famous or whatever you wanna say than Whitney, but it just was, like, it's just a weird thing to do. I just feel like there's so many other things you can make fun of Uncle P for, like, "Oh, you're stingy, you didn't want us to pay," like, blah, 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 but to be like, "Your English is so good," just ugh.
The dude speaks 6 languages. Like,
Yeah. What are we doing here? It's
and
silly.
like, at no point was anything Patrice said unintelligible. Like, it wasn't like
Correct.
it got lost in translation, or I wasn't sure that's what he meant. You knew what he meant every time. So it was unnecessary for no
Mhm.
reason. But what are you gonna do? I will say,
Right.
while I didn't agree with Whitney on the show, this is again Whitney's somebody I really enjoyed on Love Island, her
Yeah.
original run. But I think one thing is very prominent, and that is I can say I wasn't vibing with some of the stuff Whitney was doing, but I also think that what people are doing outside of the house, outside of the
Correct.
show, is unnecessary. She's getting death threats. She's getting racist remarks sent at her, slurs sent at her. That has no place in this kind of show, and it's unfortunate that, and I think granted, a lot of these comments, when you read them, you're hoping it's not an adult, you're hoping it's a child that doesn't know better, of the weight of these words and the severity of the things they're saying. And I think obviously with the internet audience, they're probably skewing younger. So
Yeah, but
I'm
again,
gonna go ahead and
what are
hope
we
that's the
doing
case.
for
But
kids to,
like,
like, say stuff like this too?
it's
So, yeah.
grim. It's absolutely grim.
It's just it's unnecessary, and the thing is, if you can't handle these, reality shows, maybe don't watch them. Because
Exactly.
and this is same to traitors, fans, but anyway, it's just like, why are we watching any kind of shows where you have to vote people out, where you're, trying to get to the end? There's only 3 people that could get to the end out of 10. So
12.
oh,
3 out
yeah,
of
out of
12.
12,
Even smaller
12.
odds.
Oh my god. So what are we doing here to try to, you know, be disrespectful to people once they're off the show? You weren't in the house and you're seeing an edited content, like edited in any way. I bet you if editors wanted, they could have made Cinna look terrible. But they didn't, but I'm just saying it's
Mhm.
like a possibility.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's just like I just feel like it's fine if you want to like make fun of people while they're on the show, being like, "Oh, you're so silly," like that's ridiculous. Well, I've done it, so like I don't want to be hypocritical. But then I think once they're off the show, memory of a goldfish, we just gotta
Mhm.
move
Move
on from
on.
them and not fan any flames of people that just like do normal annoying stuff, not like people that are like genuinely bad people. That's a different
Right.
story. But let's just be a little bit grown ups. That's all. Anyway, I had to say it because yeah, it's just like it feels icky even for me to watch a show because I was like, "Am I not the target demographic? Like, what's happening?" Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, that is insight. Is there anything else, Pooya?
No, I had a lot of fun. This last week was
Mhm.
absolutely a good time watching this, and I was excited that you and I were going to join up to talk about it once
Yes.
again, because this is the type of show that I would like to bring to people's attention,
Mhm.
because we have our fill of competitive reality TV that is strategic intensive.
Yes.
I feel like we don't talk about enough about competitive reality shows that are more social based and just
Correct.
more slice of life. You're kind of watching them live their life together, but then also someone's going to win something at the end. And I enjoy stuff like that quite a bit.
Yeah,
So,
same.
hey, if you're looking for something like that right now, give this a try.
Yeah, and it's on Netflix, so
It's like
check it out.
7 episodes, 8 with a reunion. Like, it's not that much.
Yeah, and it's a fast watch, like, nothing is, like, so boring or laggy, like, that's where I'll give the editing credit. It's just, I think they cut out too much, if anything.
Yeah,
So, with that, Pooya, listen, you it wouldn't be a Mess Magnets episode if we don't do an anonymous.
it's
So,
true.
are we ready?
Yes, let's
Great.
do
And
it.
again, if you don't know, this is our listener submitted mess. Our messengers submit their life's drama. So here's a tea. Okay, everyone. If you have some drama, okay, submit it on tinyurl/mess magnets. Okay. We need it. We need it. Go to messmagnets.com. You'll find the form. And we need your mess. We're running low. All right. And don't make us beg, please. Submit anything. Were you locked in a house with people and did crazy things happen? I don't know. Send it over. All right. And with that, let's get to this anonymous. It's short. It's short. This is a story of how I had to send a screenshot to a cop that said, "Bro, I just saw Carl taking a piss outside his house."
This person texted this to an officer
Send a screenshot to a cop
of
that said
of the
this.
text.
Yes. So it all started back in October when I was making my coffee in the morning. I looked outside. I looked out of the side window of my kitchen and saw my 60-year-old neighbor, let's call him Carl, names have been changed, with very up of you, anyway, with his boxers around his knees, peeing next to his driveway. I got a full frontal view of everything. I immediately sent my husband above the text, but we decided to not only send a report in if it happened again. We decided to, sorry, only send a report in if it happened again. Fast forward 1 month. I get a call from the local police department. First question they ask me is, "Have you seen your neighbor naked?"
Oh.
Literally, that was the response. Oh, I. They asked for the specific date and time, so I mentioned the text I sent to my husband. That's when they asked me to text them screenshots of my text as evidence, and they ended up using those to open an indecent exposure case on my behalf. We ended up dropping the case, but those screenshots will forever live in the department server.
Oh my God.
Imagine texting your husband, bro. I just saw this.
Imagine
Am I
texting the police. Like, I
am
didn't
I
know that was a thing.
Yeah, I had no idea that the cops could call you and they're like, "Yeah, no, like send us that text as evidence." What had Carl done? That's what I feel like is missing here. Because did you report it cuz it happened again and then the cops called you? Or was it like did someone else call the cops and then the cops
Y-
were like, "Oh, let's call the neighbor."
Yeah, let's see who else has maybe seen or heard something.
Yes. And Carl, I feel like 60 is young. So does Carl need help?
I don't know.
I just Messenger. I need more. I need more.
Need the follow-ups here.
Yeah, like why did the cops call you is the biggest is the biggest question. What
Yeah.
happened with Carl? Is Carl one of the like a serial killer that like,
Oh my God.
is was living like a normal life, like the Golden State Killer that just stopped killing at one point? So many
Maybe. It's possible.
Yeah, I need to know. That's all. But yes, that is our anonymous for this week. Short but very funny. So I felt like I had to share it with you. And thank you, Messenger, for sending the mess in. And again, send your mess in. All right. We need it. And with that, Pooya, again, thank you so much for coming
Of course.
on. Thank you to everyone for listening here on YouTube. Thank you for watching. I had a little pictures up for y'all. And with that, Pooya, where can the people find you?
They can find me on all socials at Pooyaism on Twitch, twitch.tv/Pooya. That's where I am when I'm not podcasting right now. I've got my regular rotation of The Pad and Goose Goose Duck happening weekly, but now Leon and I are playing Split Fiction for the first time every Thursday around 7. So pull up for that. We're playing through it, and we've done it once so far. Wild game. So can't wait to see where it goes from there. Myself and Liana also, speaking of, do this lovely podcast called the Pooya and Liana Lounge, where we get together every week and talk about an array of topics. Who knows what's going to come up next, and so on. So make sure you check that out over either on the RHAP YouTube page for the video or the Pooya and Liana Lounge, pooyaandliana.com for the audio feed. And 90 Day Fiance, Sasha, you were on with me somewhat
Mhm.
recently. I'm talking about that season of the show. So check out the Hot Mess Express for that. And might be on RHAP this week. So check that out.
Oh, all right. I can't wait. I will be checking it out.
Okay.
And yes, as for me, of course, you can find me talking Daredevil on We Know Scripted TV with Jason Reed. This week we even talked about the Marvel Avengers Doomsday cast. It's out, baby.
I'm so excited.
It's gonna be so ridiculous. We're so excited. And Jason and I just had the time of our lives talking about all of that in the Daredevil episodes 5 and 6. So check that out. Taryn and I are talking right here on the Robin's Podcast YouTube channel about jet lag, which is an Amazing Race type show where it's Amazing Race and Taskmaster all into one. And truly has been such a joy to watch. And again, thank you everyone for listening. Y'all are killing it. We're so grateful. So check that out. And obviously follow Kirsten everywhere as well. We missed her this week. So, give us a 5-star review telling Kirsten we miss her. And with that, thank you everyone for listening. Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.